All right, let's dive into some Japanese entertainment news today. Some stuff has been happening lately that's been making waves.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting to see it all unfold.
Yeah, so we've got a couple articles here, all Japanese entertainment news, of course. And let me tell you, things are getting juicy.
Oh yeah, buckle up.
We got Nakai Masahiro Watanabe Mayu.
Oh wow, those are some big names.
Oh, and even a former Fuji TV announcer, Watanabe Nagisa.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah. There's a possible 90 million yen settlement. Sudden retirements. Possible connections that could rock the industry.
The mystery is definitely adding fuel to the fire, that's for sure. There's so much speculation going on right now.
Right. Okay, let's break this down. Our first article here is from Nikkei Gendai Digital. It claims that Nakai Masahiro, he's a huge name in Japanese entertainment, paid a 90 million yen settlement to a woman. They're calling it woman trouble.
Yeah, that's a pretty hefty sum. It definitely raises some eyebrows.
Right. And here's the thing. We don't actually know the specifics.
No, the details are being kept very hush-hush.
Yeah, no official statements or anything, but the article suggests it could be even higher.
Oh, really? Like how much higher are we talking?
Maybe even 100 million yen.
Wow.
With like 10% going to the lawyer as a success fee.
Ah, I see. That makes sense.
Yeah. And get this. The article speculates that Nakai might have agreed to that amount super quickly. Like, it even surprised his own lawyer.
Huh. That is interesting. I wonder what that could mean.
Yeah, what do you think? Is it a cultural thing? Taking responsibility? A way to protect his career?
It's hard to say for sure, but this whole situation really highlights the power dynamics in the Japanese entertainment world, you know?
Totally. These big settlements, they don't happen all the time.
Yeah.
But sometimes they're a way to make problems disappear.
Right. It's a way to safeguard their reputations, keep their careers going.
It makes you wonder what else goes on that we never even hear about.
Oh, absolutely. There's a whole world behind the scenes that we only get glimpses of.
Right. And this is where it gets even more interesting because our second article, this one is from Janujin Idol. Fun brings up a really intriguing possibility.
Tell me more.
Could Nakai's settlement be connected to Watanabe Mayu's retirement back in 2020?
Whoa. Okay. Now that's a connection I wouldn't have expected.
Right. She was a huge idol, part of AKB 48.
Ah.
And her retirement, well, it came out of nowhere. Officially, it was for health reasons.
Yeah, I remember that. A lot of fans were heartbroken.
Totally. The article points out that she was a regular on Nakai's music show, Utage.
Right.
And she stopped appearing right before she retired.
So they're thinking there might be a link.
Yeah. I mean, there were already rumors about Nakai's show being super demanding and stressful. So could that have contributed to her decision to retire?
Nakai is definitely known for his high standards and work ethic. I could see how that environment could take a toll on someone, especially a young idol. But we're just speculating here.
Of course. But it's hard not to get pulled into the mystery of it all, right?
Totally agree. There's just something so captivating about these stories and the potential connections. But as we keep digging, gotta stay objective. Separate what we know from what we're just guessing.
Right. Absolutely.
Okay,
Before we go too far down that rabbit hole, let's pause for a second. We've got a mysterious settlement, a sudden retirement, and a possible connection between them. What jumps out at you the most so far?
Well, for me, it's how this whole situation is like a window into how the Japanese entertainment industry works.
Right.
It raises questions about the pressure these performers are under, the things that are done to protect reputations, the power dynamics at play behind the scenes. It's really fascinating.
It's like we're getting a peek behind the curtain.
Exactly. And the fact that there's so much we still don't know just makes it even more intriguing.
All right, so let's go deeper. We're going to dive into Watanabe Mayu's retirement and what it might have to do with Nakai's situation. This deep dive is just getting started.
Yeah, I'm ready for more. All right, so picking up where we left off, we're talking about Watanabe Mayu, her sudden retirement, and whether it's somehow connected to Nakai and all this.
Yeah, it's a story that really gets you thinking about the pressure on these idols in Japan. I mean, it's an industry that demands perfection, right? Privacy's limited, the expectations are sky high, and it just never stops.
Absolutely. This article from Janujin Idol Fun really paints a picture of Watanabe as someone who is incredibly dedicated, very meticulous. Like, she was known for her work ethic, always going the extra mile to be perfect in her performances.
I mean, that's admirable.
Sure.
But you can imagine how draining that must be day after day to always be on, especially in an industry that's as demanding as the idol world.
Totally. And the article actually mentions this one incident. It happened on Nakai's show, Utage. Apparently, Watanabe made a small mistake during a performance.
Oh, yeah, I think I remember hearing about that.
Most people probably wouldn't have even noticed, but
But for someone like Watanabe who strives for absolute perfection, even a small slip-up could feel huge.
exactly. The article says she was visibly upset about it. It kind of showed how much pressure she put on herself to meet those incredibly high standards of being an idol.
Man, that's got to be tough.
Yeah.
To be that talented, that successful, and still feel the weight of those expectations. It makes you think about the toll it takes, the human cost of fame, you know?
Definitely. And remember, this happened before her retirement. So it might have been a sign that she was already struggling with the pressure of her career.
That's a really good point. We tend to focus on the polished performances, the perfect smiles. It's easy to forget there's a real person behind all that, someone who deals with the same struggles we all do.
Absolutely. This incident and then her eventual retirement, it makes you think about the support system that's in place for these young performers. Are they getting the help they need to handle the mental and emotional stress of a career like that?
It's a huge question. We often celebrate what these idols achieve, but their well-being is just as important. How do we make sure they're okay in the long run?
Yeah, it's something to think about, for sure. And speaking of sudden departures and health reasons, we've also got the case of Watanabe Nagisa, the former Fuji TV announcer.
Oh, right. The article brought her up, comparing her situation to Watanabe Mayu's.
Yeah.
They both left their jobs pretty abruptly.
Both citing health reasons, too. And if you remember, both of them worked with Nakai at some point. Now, the article doesn't outright say there's a direct connection, but it does make you wonder if there's more to those health reasons than meets the eye.
It's a pretty big coincidence, right? And Fuji TV is known for being a tough place to work. Long hours, high pressure. I can imagine how someone, even a famous announcer, could burn out.
Exactly. We can only speculate about Watanabe Nagisa's reasons, but it's interesting to think about whether she was going through something similar to Watanabe Mayu.
Like they both hit a breaking point, that the pressure was just too much.
It's possible. And it definitely makes you question if there's something about the industry itself that contributes to these situations.
Right. Okay, before we move on, there's this one other thing in the article about a mysterious actor A. It just says actor A.
Oh, yeah, that part. I wonder if they're just trying to stir the pot or if there's actually something to it.
Right. What do you think?
Well, they speculate that actor A might be Kinoshita Huka, an actor who's had his own share of scandals. And they even suggest a possible link to Watanabe Mayu's retirement, although there's no real proof. It's a lot of maybes.
It's like they're throwing another log on the fire.
Yeah.
Right. It's a reminder of how fast rumors spread, especially in entertainment news.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that until we hear it from the people involved, it's all just speculation. We got to take it with a grain of salt.
Right. Healthy skepticism. Okay, so let's recap. We've got Nakai settlement, all the speculation around it, Watanabe Mayu retiring, Watanabe Nagisa leaving Fuji TV, and now this actor A. This is getting pretty wild.
It is, isn't it? It's like a real-life drama unfolding. But as we try to make sense of it all, gotta stay grounded in the facts. Analyze what we know and be mindful of the real people who are part of this story.
That's a good point. It's easy to get caught up in the intrigue, but we shouldn't forget that there are real lives at stake here.
For sure. It's also a reminder that the entertainment industry, as glamorous as it seems, can be really tough. It takes a toll.
Okay, so we've uncovered quite a bit here trying to piece together these different events. But what do you think is the main takeaway so far? What's the big picture?
I think one of the biggest takeaways is that we got to be empathetic. It's easy to get caught up in the gossip, but these are real people we're talking about, each with their own struggles, their own experiences.
That's a great point. It's a reminder to be mindful of what these people are going through, the pressure they're under.
Exactly. And it also highlights how important critical thinking is. With all this news flying around, all the speculation, it's more crucial than ever to question what we read and try to form our own informed opinions.
Couldn't agree more. Now, before we move on, there's one last thing I want to touch on. The media's role in all of this. How they shape these narratives.
Ah, yes. That's a crucial point. We've been talking about these articles and what they claim, but we should acknowledge that the media has a huge influence on how we understand events.
Okay, so break it down for me. What's the media's role here, in your opinion? So we're back for the final part of our deep dive, and we've been through a lot, haven't we? All this talk about Nakai, the settlements, the retirements. It's like we've really started to see what's going on behind the scenes in Japanese entertainment.
We have, and it's fascinating how these stories all tie back to things like power, fame, and keeping up appearances. But now let's get back to that 90 million yen question. What about these allegations against Nakai?
Yeah, that's the big one. And it's been hanging over our heads this whole time. We've said it before, but we still don't know the details of this woman trouble.
Mhm.
It's all pretty vague.
Very true. And that's led to a lot of speculation, of course. But even without knowing everything, we can still look at this situation with a critical eye. That Nekken Gendai digital article, the journalist who wrote it, he's been covering entertainment for a long time. He suggests that these big settlements, while they're shocking to most people, they might actually be more common than we think.
What, like these things happen behind the scenes more often than we realize?
That's kind of what he's implying. That sometimes these settlements are used to protect big names, to keep things quiet.
It's kind of unsettling, right? Makes you wonder how much we don't know about.
It does raise questions about how open and accountable the industry is, but it's also important to remember that every situation is different. We can't just assume that a settlement means someone did something wrong. Sometimes it's the easiest way to just move on from a messy situation.
True, true. We got to be careful about jumping to conclusions. We only have a small piece of the whole picture. But it does make you think about who has the power in these situations.
It definitely does. The fact that Nakai could make a settlement for that much money shows he's got resources. He can protect himself. It highlights how different people have different levels of power in this industry.
And how much pressure there is to protect your image. When your whole career is built on how people see you, it makes sense that you do a lot to keep that image clean.
Exactly. But focusing so much on appearing perfect, it can have a downside too. It can make people afraid to speak up, to share their concerns, because they're worried about what will happen to them.
And that brings us back to Watanabe Mayu and Watanabe Nagisa. We talked about how their situations might connect to Nakai, even though we don't know for sure. But their stories, together with this settlement, they show how important it is to speak your truth, to stand up for yourself, even when it's hard.
Definitely. We need to create an environment where people feel safe to share their concerns and get the support they need. That can be tough in an industry like this, where there's a clear hierarchy and not everyone has equal footing.
Yeah, it's a reminder that we all have a part to play in making things better, whether it's standing up for those who speak out, holding powerful people accountable, or even just being more critical of the entertainment news we read. We can all make a difference.
Absolutely. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to go back to something we've mentioned a few times. Empathy. It's easy to get lost in the rumors and the drama, but these are real people with real lives and feelings.
We can't forget that. We should try to understand what they're going through and remember that there's more to the story than what we see in the headlines. It's about seeing the human side of all of this.
Yeah, exactly. And remembering that the entertainment industry, as fun and exciting as it can be, is also a workplace. It's a business. And it's a complicated world with its own unique problems and ways of doing things.
Well said. So, as we come to the end of our deep dive, what are your final thoughts for our listeners? What do you want them to take away from this?
I hope our listeners have gained a better understanding of how the Japanese entertainment industry works. The good and the bad, the pressures and everything in between. I hope they'll be more critical of what they read and hear and consider different points of view. And most importantly, to approach these stories with empathy and an open mind.
Beautifully said. And remember, this is just one small piece of a much bigger puzzle. There's so many more stories to explore and lessons to learn. So keep asking questions, keep digging deeper, and keep those deep dives going.